In this episode, I'll be showing how to make this sci-fi themed truck that you can see here. Hello and welcome back. Now, as is usual with all of these videos of mine, there's an accompanying PDF file that I've made available over on Drive-Thru-RPG. It's a pay what you want file, so feel free to grab it for free, or pay a small amount if you feel so inclined. Anyway, a few months ago, I made this shuttle that's on the screen right now. And in that video, I asked if anyone would like to see me take the main hull, or chassis, and use that as a sort of basic building block for other designs. Like a truck, for example. And quite a few people seem to like that idea. So here I am again, doing just that. So, as you might remember me saying in that video, building the hull, fuselage, chassis, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be the same procedure for all of these projects. So, rather than going through all of that again and repeating myself more than I already do, if you follow the instructions in the first 8 minutes of the shuttle video, there should be a card in the corner of the screen, that will get you this far. As I say, the starting point for this, and any similar projects in the future, that's always going to be the same. And now that that's done, we can move on to the pieces specific to this little truck, starting with a piece to go on top. Okay then, the first thing we'll need to do is take these 4 textures, glue those to some cardboard or similar, and when they're dry, we can cut those to size with a sharp knife and a metal ruler. Next, we'll glue this texture to some thin cereal box card, and then, before cutting it out, we'll need to score it along these lines, so that when we do cut it out, we can fold along those scored lines to make the kind of shape I'm showing here. Once we've done that, we can then start gluing the 2 textured end pieces into place, just using the glue gun. So there's the first one being glued to one end, and making sure that it's flush with the card. And now here I am doing the other end. And after that, you'll also see me gluing the 2 blank spacers into position as well. And these are positioned roughly 1.5 inches in from each end. And when we're finished, here's how it should look. It's the same thing that we did with the top of the shuttle, to be honest, just with different textures. Then we're going to glue that to the top of the main piece like you can see here. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, just using the glue gun again. And here it is when it's done. It doesn't really matter which way around you glue it, as the texture should line up nicely either way. Right then, next we're going to glue this texture to some thick card, anything around 1mm thick should be fine, and we'll cut that out once it's dry. Now, all we're going to do with this piece is use it to cover up the area where the wing was glued on the original shuttle model. So, something like this. And as you can see, I like to use some PVA glue for that. So, there you go. That's all there is to it for this particular piece. Okay, next we're going to glue these 2 pieces to some more thick card. Again, mine is around 1mm thick. And like before, we'll need to score it along the guidelines. That way, when we cut it out, we can then bend it along those lines, as you might have guessed. And if I quickly bring the main piece back in, if we take this strip and bend over the little triangular shape at the one end, like I'm showing here, the whole thing can then be stuck to the side of the truck in this position, so that the shorter edge of that triangle is flush with the rear. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, when doing this, I'll apply some glue to this little right angle area, and then kind of fix that triangular piece into place, while at the same time making sure that the top of the strip is pushed up against that extra cardboard piece above it. Then, once that's done, it's just a case of gluing the front of the strip into place as well, though this time we don't need to glue that little flap at the front. Plus, if you like, you can also run a line of hot glue along the inside, to add a bit more strength. And when that's done, here's how it should look. As I say, the back, that should be fixed down something like this, and the front, that's more of a little flap. Hopefully you can see what I've done there. And now we'll just need to cover this area here. Okay, for this we'll first glue one of these blank pieces to some cardboard, and then, not surprisingly, we'll cut that to size. Next, we'll take one of these window textures and glue that to some thin cereal box card, and once again we'll need to score that along the line shown here on the screen. That way, once it's cut out, we can bend all of those side pieces over, like I'm doing here. Something like that. It's then a simple matter of gluing the blank piece to the back of the window texture, as the aim here is to use this extra bit of cardboard to help us glue the side panels down into place, without the need for those fiddly little tabs. And that's what you can see me doing. So there you go. Hopefully you can see what we're trying to achieve with this piece. And as you might have realised, this will then cover that last blank area on the side of the truck. However, before gluing it into place, you can add a bit more cardboard to the inside if you like, near to the top, just to make that process a bit easier. And then we can fill the inside with hot glue, like you can see here, and then stick it on top of that side panel, making sure that it's nicely aligned. And with any luck, this is how it should end up looking. Something like this. Though we will, of course, need to do the same thing on both sides, just using the rest of the pieces on the first page of the PDF. Now, the last things to add are the wheels, and for each pair we'll need to glue one of these pieces to some thick cardboard, then, like everything else, we'll cut it to size. Next, we'll take an empty toilet roll tube, and the first thing I like to do is make sure that one of the ends is cut straight, as they aren't always, and I'm just using the grid of the cutting mat to make sure it's square. Then we'll need to measure out a width of 3/4 of an inch, cut that to size with a sharp knife, and then unfold it back out into its circular shape. Now, because these tubes aren't always the same size, you will need to measure the inside diameter of your own tube, and then take a piece of thick card, in my case this is the usual 1mm thick stuff, and then draw a circle of the same size on the card with a circle stencil or around a miniature base or something like that, and as it turns out the largest circle on this one is a tiny bit too small, so when I'm cutting the circle out you will see me cutting slightly outside the line. Anyway, as you can see, it's also worth marking out the centre of the circle, and then measuring a distance of 3/8 of an inch or 9.5mm on either side of that, as this will help us align the axle piece in the middle a bit later on. But yeah, now we can cut out the circle shape, and like I say, I'm having to cut mine slightly outside the line to get it the right size. And if we've measured everything correctly, we should be able to push that down inside the tube and hopefully get a nice snug fit. And yeah, that seems to have worked out nicely. Then it's a simple matter of running a line of hot glue around the inside, just to fix the two pieces together, which should end up looking like this, and that's going to be the basic shape for each of the wheels. Next, we're going to cut out one of the wheel textures, apply plenty of glue to the back of that, and then we'll place the cardboard assembly in the middle. Then it's just a case of making lots of little cuts all the way around the outside. Essentially, we're making a whole bunch of tabs that we can fold over the edge a bit later on. So I'll leave the video running while I do just that. There you go. Here it is now that's been done. Next, we'll need to cut out the tread of the tyre. Then, as usual, we can apply some glue to the back of that, and then wrap that around the outside of the toilet roll tube, like I'm doing here. So that we end up with this kind of thing. That's going to be our finished wheel. And we'll need to make 2 of those. There you go. All we'll need to do then is apply some hot glue to that area that we marked out earlier, and stick the axle piece in the centre of the wheel. Basically, something like this. Then it's a fairly simple matter of doing the same thing with the other wheel on the other side. So yeah, that's the one set of wheels done. Though I should probably point out that there are two different tyre textures in the PDF, and you might want to make sure that you're using one of each, so that they're a mirror image of each other. Anyway, for our 6-wheeled truck, we'll need to make 3 sets of these. Okay, now if I bring in the main part of the truck, which I've finished off on both sides, and one of the wheel assemblies that I just made, we can start gluing these together. So this first one, we'll be gluing that in the middle, in line with the side window. And we'll also need to make sure that the textured side of the axle is facing towards the front. Essentially, something like this. Then the second one, we'll glue that in between the first one and the back of the truck, and as you can see, I always do a quick test fit first, just to see where I need to add a few generous blobs of hot glue. So, this kind of thing. And if I tilt it towards the camera, you can see how I've made sure that both axle textures are facing away from each other, towards either end of the truck. Anyway, this last one, it looks best if we position it pretty far forward, as this set of wheels is probably the one providing the steering, so just leave more of a gap between this and the one in the middle. If you do that, this is how it will look from the underneath, and here it is from the side. And if I tilt it towards the camera again, you can see that I've made sure that the axle texture is facing forward. But yeah, that's all there is to it really, so here's a picture from a better angle, and it is rather big and chunky, that being a result of it sharing a lot of the same parts with the shuttle, though if you want something a bit smaller, there's nothing stopping you from printing out the PDF at a different size. For example, this second one in the foreground, that's been printed out at 75%. Obviously, that would mean that you'd need to adjust any measurements that I've given by 75% as well, but it really isn't all that hard. Anyway, now that it's finished, all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. Feel free to do all that like and share nonsense if you feel so inclined, and with any luck, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.